Mario 64 is the scariest game ever made. Around every corner, there's something terrifying waiting to kill Super Mario. There's chain chomps. There's Unagi. There's even invisible walls. But of all these scary elements, nothing is more terrifying than what lies behind this cage in the castle courtyard. Big Boo's Haunt acts as Mario 64's ghost house level, which is a very common trope in the Mario series. Not every game has them, but I always like whenever they show up. Seeing as Mario 64 was the first mainline 3D Mario game, that makes Big Boo's Haunt the very first 3D Mario ghost level. So the question is, did this level actually succeed at being a bit eerie, and does it work as a fun stage? Welcome to another episode of Level by Level. Today we're going to be analyzing Big Boo's Haunt to see how much I like the stage, because honestly, I've never had a super strong opinion on it one way or the other. Except for the fact that it's scary. Just like our other Mario 64 episodes, we'll be dividing this into 3 sections. We'll start with the course's aesthetic, then move to the layout, and finally end on a tier list of all 7 of the stage's stars. Then at the end of the video, we'll be able to determine where Big Boo's Haunt belongs on the Mario 64 level by level tier list. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right in. So first it's time we start with the aesthetic of the stage. If you were paying attention literally at all in the intro, I said about 10 times that this is meant to be Mario 64's spooky ghost house level. Just by looking at it, I think it's safe to say that it certainly does a good job of being distinctly more scary than any other level, unless you're scared of Womp. Before we get into the stage itself though, I actually want to talk a bit about getting into the stage because I think that helps a decent amount in setting the theme. To get there, you have to go down this hallway in the castle which just has a boo chilling inside of it. That's very subtle foreshadowing for all the boos you'll see outside, and you may be able to notice that one of these boos aren't like the others. Unlike the others that just have a coin inside of them when they turn invisible, this big boo actually has a cage inside. Defeating it will allow Mario to shrink down and enter into the cage. Most of the levels in this game are entered into by paintings or some other portal, so having a level that you shrink down into is very unique. It sort of adds to the odd and eerie vibe of this course to make it so different from everything else. What I really appreciate is how they maintain this cage aesthetic in the course itself. Around the entire level, we can see the wall of the cage, which just makes the stage feel even creepier and more closed in. I especially like the dark blue skyblock? I especially like the dark blue skybox and the fact that the blades of grass outside look sort of like a forest when we're shrunken down to this scale. As for what makes up the stage itself, yep, that's definitely a haunted manor. I would say this is visually about what you would expect a Mario ghost house to look like, which I think is very fair for the first one in 3D. The fact that it's in a cage already makes it unique enough, so the actual level being a bit more standard is understandable to me. Going inside the mansion, I really like the rundown light purple of the main room. I think they nail this eerie vibe they were going for without making the stage overly dark. I also appreciate that most of the rooms inside the mansion have a completely different look from one another. None of them feel out of place, and they add a good variety, with some being wooded, some featuring bookshelves, and so on. Of course, the aesthetic is also greatly helped by the special obstacles this course has. Haunted books can come flying out of the bookshelves, some coffins attempt to crush you, and of course, everyone mentions being scared of the piano. But I was never scared of it. Yeah, I'm kind of the goat. I was scared of the Wiggles though. In all seriousness, the piano is a really well designed jump scare just because that piano smashing sound is so perfect. And of course, we can't stop this aesthetic segment without mentioning the music. This is the only stage in the entire game with a unique song to just it. Every other level shares its theme with at least one other stage, but Big Boo's Haunt gets an entirely unique ghost house theme. The song is perfectly eerie to the point where I use it a ton in my videos whenever something spooky happens. It's not really a banger, but it's doing what it should in setting the atmosphere. I also really like how when you're outside, you can hear a strong wind, which really helps sell the atmosphere too. So in my opinion, they absolutely nailed the spooky and unique vibe the stage was going for. Moving on to the layout of the stage, and Big Boo's Haunt is probably one of the more unique cases in Mario 64. Despite being a non-linear collectathon, a lot of the stages in this game are built around a main linear path. Think going up to the mountain summit in Bob-omb Battlefield, the top of Tick-Tock Clock, and so on. Big Boo's Haunt kind of has that, but to a much lesser extent, as it doesn't really feel like there's much of a distinct location to reach. I think that fits with the Haunted Manor level pretty well actually. Throughout the entire series, ghost house levels are always meant to be sort of confusing and maze-like. You never really know which door is going to benefit you and which door is going to make you... While I wouldn't say Big Boo's Haunt is as confusing, not having a big focus to travel to I think fits pretty well. When we enter the level, we start on the outside, which is one of the weirdest areas in the entire game. It's a completely flat area, which makes sense in universe, but still feels a bit off. It is very empty too for how big it is. There's pretty much nothing to do here besides finding a few coins. I do like the inclusion of scuttlebugs though, because them being spider enemies does fit the scary aesthetic. Due to just how empty this area is though, it does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity to put at least 1 star here. I am at least happy the outside exists though, even if it's just to give us a view of the mansion. I feel like having the exterior look and getting to walk inside the doors ourselves was essential in selling this as a really haunted building. I feel like if the cage just dropped us into the building right out of the gate, then a lot of the atmosphere would have been lost here. So even if this exterior is very barren, I do at least appreciate its existence. But of course, the main attraction is the actual mansion itself. It's split into what I would consider 4 different segments. When we enter the stage, we first have to walk up to the entrance, which puts us onto the ground floor. I think this opening works perfectly for a haunted house, as it presents you with several doors leading to other rooms. You never know what you're going to see on the other side, and that's helped quite a bit by each room being distinct in its own way. We got a library with haunted chairs, a dark room with an eyeball, a falling bridge, a room filled with small platforms, and of course the infamous piano room. Not only are all of these different, but they provide for fun small areas to explore and still fit together in a haunted mansion setting. That continues up into the second floor, which is unlocked after completing the first mission. Unless you're a dirty cheater. Just like we saw on the ground floor, the rooms up here also have a pretty wide variety in their aesthetics and layouts. What I also love though is that many of these rooms are still connected to the bottom floor in interesting ways. Some act as balconies that let you jump down, whereas others have hidden floor traps that send you falling down below. It really makes the house still feel connected, and I also just think having many different paths is perfectly fitting for a ghost house. That also goes for the mansion's basement. If you manage to fall in one of the rooms with the void, Mario will end up he'll end up falling down into some water. Having such an unorthodox way of reaching this area just fits in with the confusing nature that ghost houses in the series are trying to go for. Of course, you don't have to go down like this, as there is a shed on the outside of the mansion with an elevator, but again, I love having so many different mysterious connections between all of the rooms. And of course, the final segment is the attic and the ceiling. This is the hardest area to reach, requiring the player to do a bit of parkour. I actually think that was a pretty cool choice, as it reminds me a lot of the secret hidden exits found in many of the 2D ghost house levels. Only 2 of the stage's stars are found up here, so even if you can't get up here, there's still plenty to do in this stage. Having the roof be something we can actually go onto is also really cool, and it's nice that we get to soak in a bit more of the exterior atmosphere while we're up there. But that pretty much covers the layout of the stage. While you could argue that this is built around a linear path up to the ceiling, I would say this is a lot more focused on creating individual rooms and connecting them in creative ways. It gives this course a distinctive feel to run through, and I really appreciate them making each room something unique. Even if the rooms are all concentrated in a closer area than most stages, it still feels like there's plenty to explore in this course. But a layout is nothing if the stars themselves don't use it well, so now I think it's time we finally get to review the stage's stars. Kicking us off, we have star number 1, go on a ghost hunt. For this star, Mario has to break into the Boo's home and murder everyone inside. Super Mario's a bad guy? This makes complete sense as an opening star and works really well to get us acquainted with the ground floor. Before even getting into the stage, I like how the stage entrance sort of acts like a tutorial on how to kill the Boos. They're a bit more unique than most enemies, as they require Mario to attack them while they aren't invisible. Locking the stage entrance behind killing a Boo first was a smart move to ensure no one would get stuck on this first star. Once you get inside the mansion, you have to find 5 Boos on the ground floor, and I think they do a pretty great job of diversifying them. You can kill the Boos in any order, so it's kind of like a secret star but with enemies instead. The most basic of the Boos is the one in the bridge room, as he's on a fairly big platform, so it's easy enough to kill him. Then there's the Boo in the Mr. I room, which also isn't too bad unless you really hate getting stared at. The Void Room Boo is probably the scariest of the bunch, as the small platforms make it a lot more punishing if you get hit. If you do fall though, this can act as a surprise introduction to the basement as well, which I think is a great idea. And the final 2 Boo are both found in the library room, though it may not appear that way at first. While it may seem empty beside the haunted objects, eventually the 2 Boo will come creeping out from behind the painting. I like this a lot for several reasons. For one, it makes them the most unique Boo, as there's a slight puzzle involved with killing them. 2, it shows that Boos can come through paintings, which is important for an upcoming star. And 3, it shows that invisible characters can go through these paintings, and since there's an invisibility cap right next to them, it implies that Mario can do the same with the power-up. That not only comes up in a future star, but can even show off a little hidden room behind the painting along with the back door. Once you defeat all 5 ghosts, you have to return back to the main room in order to fight a big Boo. This requires 3 hits to defeat, and for some reason makes thwomp noises whenever you hit it. I always thought that was a bit weird. Upon his defeat, the star will spawn in along with the staircase that lets you reach the second floor. I think this was a pretty excellent introduction to the stage. I really can't think of a better opener than a ghost hunt. The only real annoyance here is that I don't like that every Boo talks when you kill them. Shut It's just a waste of time in my opinion, but it's far from enough to drag the star down too much. A very solid A tier opening for Big Boo's Haunt. Star number 2, Ride Big Boo's Merry-Go-Round. Now I do have to say that it feels a bit weird that the first star after unlocking the second floor literally doesn't use it at all. I feel like most people would want to explore up there, so I think maybe putting the Secret of the Haunted Books at number 2 would have made a bit more sense. Not that it matters too much since players can obviously go in any order they want, I just thought it was a bit odd. Anyway, this star is very similar to star number 1 as it involves Mario killing 5 Boos and then 1 Big Boo. This time though, instead of being spread across the mansion, they're all found within the basement. As I've said, you can either get there from the elevator hidden in the nearby shed, or just by simply falling down in one of the void rooms. I haven't really talked too much about this area yet since I wanted to save it for this star, but it's one of the most unique portions of any stage. It actually gets its own unique music theme, one that's not seen anywhere else in the game. The rich get richer. It fits the eerie fun of the merry-go-round perfectly, and I think it's extra cool how you can hear it quietly from outside the room and it gets louder as you go inside. Once you're in there, you'll be put on a spinning platform where you have to avoid the boos coming from the picture frames, just like the 2 boos we saw in the first star. There's also some fire to add a bit more difficulty, though it is pretty simple to avoid if you know what you're doing. Once you defeat all 5 boos along with the Big Boo, Mario gets rewarded with the star. I am slightly conflicted about this though. On the one hand, I love the unique setting of the merry-go-round as it certainly makes the star pretty memorable. On the other hand, I don't love that it's another ghost killing star, and spoilers, it's not the last one either. In isolation, this star is pretty solid, but with all of the stage's stars considered, it does feel a slight bit disappointing. But not enough for me to call it a bad star, I just think I'm gonna put it in B tier instead of maybe A tier. I think going a ghost hunt is better due to the variety of locations, but this is still a pretty solid star. Star number 3, Secret of the Haunted Books. This star finally takes us up to that second floor that we unlocked after the first mission. Instead of exploring the whole thing though, this mainly has us focusing in on one room. We've got a big hallway full of bookshelves, but if Mario decides to run through, this is a completely unique obstacle for this room, and I think it fits pretty well in a haunted house. That also goes for this room's main puzzle, as we have to try and open a secret bookshelf. A moving bookshelf has been a trope for ages, so I think it's pretty cool to see it included in this game too. To open it, you have to do a little guess and check work by hitting these books in the right order. Normally I don't love guess and check missions, but since there's only 3 and the punishment is just getting hit by another book, it's not really that bad. Once you manage to open the shelf, you can go through the door and collect the star. One thing I also like about this star is the fact that it's on a balcony above the piano room. That means you can actually get this star without even doing the book puzzle. I think it's kind of cool how the star encourages exploring like that, as you may be able to get it in a slightly easier and faster way. Overall, I like the star quite a bit. It's pretty short, so I can't say it's anything crazy, but due to having so many unique elements, it's certainly quite memorable. I think I'll also put this up in B tier. Star number 4, Seek the 8 red coins. You'll never guess what you'll have to do for this star. Every stage in the game has an 8 red coin star, and they're always some of my favorites. Since you need to collect all 8 for the star to spawn, they give the player a chance to really explore the entire stage. Some levels decide to just concentrate all the coins in one area, but I'm happy that Big Boo's Haunt decided to spread the coins throughout the mansion. Since we only truly got to explore one room on the second floor last star, this lets us see a lot more of that area. Before we get there though, there are a few coins located on the ground floor. The most iconic is of course the one behind the piano, which I've already said works as a great jump scare. The library room has 2 red coins on top of bookshelves. I like that these require a bit of a trickier jump to reach, plus the evil books that spawn to guard them are great obstacles. The final ground level coin is found in the void room, and it's definitely the lamest of the bunch, just being out in the open on a platform, but that doesn't really hurt my opinion on the star. The other 4 coins are contained on the second floor, which I think makes sense to have them perfectly split between the 2 areas. One of the coins can be found in the area above the eye room. Again, it's not a super unique coin obstacle-wise, but the room it's in is definitely much different from anything else in the mansion as you have to walk on these red grates. Another coin can also be found in this room near the floor trap. I do like the idea of this coin, but I think it could have been a lot cooler if the coin was maybe hovering directly over the trap. As it is, it's a bit too easy to just walk around the obvious square hole. I certainly wouldn't let it be me. The final 2 coins are contained in this neat little coffin room. Again, we get completely unique obstacles that fit the stage perfectly. While it's pretty easy to avoid getting crushed by them, I still think they're a fun set piece. After collecting all of the coins, the star spawns in the second floor balcony, and overall, I really liked this one. We go into pretty much every room on the first 2 floors, and even though some rooms did double up on coins, I honestly didn't mind in either case. In the past, I did wish that there was a coin in the attic, but since that area does have 2 stars on its own, I think I'm okay with the coins remaining on the main floors. A coin on the outside outside maybe would have been cool though. With all that being said, I definitely think this star deserves to place in the A tier. Star number 5, Big Boo's Balcony. And now it's finally time we head up into that attic. As I mentioned in the layout segment, getting there requires you to not only make a tricky jump, but also notice that there's a door up there to begin with. The camera doesn't do you any favors in making it obvious, so all you have to go on is the fact that you know you have to go up somewhere in the mansion. It really does give off vibes of a secret exit, and I think that's perfectly fitting for this type of stage. If you manage to make it up there, you can exit the attic for the final face-off against a Big Boo. Yeah, this is the third one of the stage, but it's certainly the hardest. Unlike the others that had a lot of room to run around and attack, the balcony is pretty tiny, and it's easy to fall off if you aren't careful. Your ground pounds can also easily knock the Big Boo away, so you have to try and draw him in without letting it get too close to kill you. But if you manage to defeat the Big Boo, well, the star's not over yet. Yes, it will spawn in, but it doesn't fly to the balcony, but instead to the very top of the roof. So now you have to try and figure out how to get up there. This kind of builds on the tricky jump that was required to reach the attic in the first place. The main option is long jumping off to the side, but since the roof is very sloped, it's incredibly easy to fall off the roof at any moment when making your way up, which I honestly think makes the star much more interesting. I like that it doesn't result in a death either, so it's mostly just trial and error to train your platforming skills. I know that I always get nervous whenever I touch the roof slopes, but if you manage to get onto the big flat part, you can grab the star. Overall, I think this is a great test of platforming and fits well as a point the stars before this were building up to. The secret exit vibes of finding the attic along with the harder Big Boo boss fight makes me want to put this up in S tier. It's a low S tier since, again, having 3 Boo boss fights in one course is a bit much. Star number 6, Eye to Eye in the Secret Room. We already had to find the secret attic entrance for the last star, but now there's another secret room. There's no direct pointer for where this room could be located in the mansion based on the star's name. Looking at the rooms with the Mr. Eye in it, it doesn't seem like anything happens if you kill them, so where are we supposed to go? Well, this star requires a lot more puzzle solving than the others in the mansion, which I think is pretty cool. While exploring, you may notice that there's randomly an invisibility cap on the second floor. Now, technically, the game doesn't always put caps where you're going to need them. Many of the world's top scientists are still trying to figure out what the point of this metal cap is on Womp's Fortress. But most of the time, they're there for a reason. Keeping that in mind as you explore, you may also eventually stumble upon this Boo painting in the attic. If you remember, this is the exact same one that we saw Boos coming from in the first star. Since that was next to an invisibility cap, we could also get the chance to see that Mario can go through these as well, but the secret room on the bottom floor doesn't have an eyeball. So by putting these puzzle pieces together, you may be able to determine that you need to use the vanish cap to go through this painting in the attic. Right away, I think that's a pretty good puzzle, but doing that is a lot easier said than done. The vanish cap being on the second floor means you have to make the jump up to the attic while the effect is still active. This puts an actual time restraint on making this jump, which obviously makes it a bit more difficult. Of course, if the power-up runs out, you can always just get another, but the looming threat of the timer just makes this a bit more rewarding to accomplish. If you manage to make it and run through the painting in time, you'll be met face to face with a giant eyeball. The other Mr. Eyes in the mansion act as tutorials for how to defeat this guy, where you have to run around him in a circle. The simple fact that the eye is bigger and in a more confined space, though, makes it a bit trickier to kill. But if you manage to finish him off, you'll be rewarded with the star. I think this is a pretty perfect puzzle. It not only takes a good amount of thinking power, but also platforming ability even if you know what you're doing. It makes coming back to the star more fun since there's still challenge involved once you have the answer. Add on the unique giant eyeball, and I honestly think this might be my favorite star in the stage. It's a great use of the vanish cap and fits perfectly in a spooky mansion, so I think S tier is really the only place it can belong. Star number 7, 100 coins. Just like the red coins, every main stage in the game has a star that spawns after collecting 100 coins. These are a lot more polarizing to me though. Some of them are absolutely fantastic challenges, whereas others feel incredibly tedious. In my opinion, the best 100 coin stars make it fun to explore the entire stage, while also giving the player at least a few options so it doesn't become tedious if they miss some coins. Big Boo's Haunt has an insanely high 151 total coins, so it's safe to say there's quite a bit of wiggle room. That means there are plenty of coins that Mario can miss if he still wants to get this star, like he doesn't even need to go up to the attic at all despite the blue coin switch being located up there. The reason there are so many coins is because of the high blue coin count within the enemies. 55 of the total coins here come from the level's 11 different Boos. 15 coins also come from both the 3 Mr. Eyes and the 3 book enemies. So in order to get this star, you're going to be doing a lot of murder. The only thing is though, we already had to do that for the first 2 stars. If you didn't go for the 100 coin star with either the Ghost Hunt or Merry-Go-Round star, there's gonna be a decent amount of repeated content. Sure, there are some coins hidden outside that are pretty fun to collect, but it doesn't feel like enough to really set this star apart from what we got before. It's not unfun to do, and I like how many options for coins we have here, it just doesn't feel particularly notable to me. I think I'm honestly gonna have to put this star in C tier. It's again not terrible, I just can't really call it a highlight. It feels a bit too repetitive with everything we've already done in this stage. The idea of killing everything in the mansion for it is fun, it's just already been done in this course several times before. But now it's time to determine where Big Boo's Haunt belongs on the Mario 64 level by level tier list. I think Big Boo's Haunt absolutely nailed the haunted house vibe it was going for. Sure, it is pretty standard, but I don't think it needed to be anything unique compared to the rest of the series. This feels like a haunted house, and the stars pretty much all fit with that theme as well. None of the stars in the stage are bad, in fact. The only issue is that they do sort of feel a bit repetitive. That's far from an exclusive problem to Big Boo's Haunt though, it just feels slightly more prevalent here than in other courses. But in all honesty, I think this stage is a lot better than I remembered. I was prepared to put this a lot lower on the list, but I think Big Boo's Haunt deserves to place up in A tier. It was a great first attempt at bringing the ghost house genre into 3D. But anyways, that's it for this video. Are you a big fan of the 10 coin block behind the mansion and hate me for not mentioning it? Let me know in the comments. Wow, I sure yapped a lot about this level, a lot more than I was expecting to, so hopefully this video was still pretty enjoyable for you guys. But before I go, I've got to thank my members being Linhart von Hevering, Fredbear's Diner, Schmendy, Maidzio2, Magnus Larslot, Trifector, Tibby, Drybones Likes Fire Protection, wrong, Mario Master 101, Hippopotamus, Levi Strux, Nuclear, Cassie Channel, Blessed Tiger, Yanni the Duck, Wyatt Derpy, Trader Mo, Mevins 2001, Kid Trunks 15, Enchanted Skull, SMA, B Major 2003, Arson the Raboot, Sir Moosty, Belandor, Cinder CC, Jade Avery, Pronto Clone, Thicky Reiki, Ingenio TM, CW McCain, JubeTube Tesseract, Jameson Pageson, Golden Sin 15, Zfrost, Stuffy Ant, Conkanut Keep, and Christian Flattery Sequel Edition. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.